welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something that honestly has more layers than I first thought. Vehicle trajectory.
hmm
It sounds maybe a bit technical, but getting how cars really move, not just yours, but everything around you well,
Yeah,
it's really important for anyone out on the road.
absolutely.
Our mission today, cut through the jargon, give you that kind of aha moment, and share some insights that could genuinely make your drive safer, maybe more confident too.
hmm
We've gone deep into the sources on this, and we're ready to unpack some maybe surprising truth about how vehicles navigate the real world.
It's true. There's just so much more to how a car moves than simply turning the wheel. We're
Right.
talking about like the physics of it, motion, momentum, control, and getting a handle on these things helps you stay in charge, especially if things suddenly change, like bad weather or, an emergency.
Okay, let's break it down then. What exactly is vehicle trajectory? From looking at the material, what's the core idea we need to grasp here?
Well, fundamentally, trajectory is just the path something takes when it moves, a point on an object or the whole object.
Simple enough.
Yeah, but for a car, it's never just a straight line or a perfect arc, is it? Think about taking a curve. Your path is constantly being shaped by your steering, obviously, but also
Yeah.
your speed, how the road's banked or not banked,
And grip.
and grip, crucially, the traction between your tires and the road. The big picture here is that really understanding these interactions, well, that's key to better handling and ultimately avoiding accidents.
That makes total sense. So for you listening, this isn't just theory. It's about getting a real edge out there.
Uh-huh.
It means you can react with more confidence when things get tricky, maybe a sudden swerve, or just setting up properly for a tight corner.
Exactly.
Okay, now this is where, for me, it got really interesting. Stuff that could genuinely change how you see your daily commute. It's
Yes.
not just about your car's path. It's about reading the movements of other vehicles, especially the big ones. What's the main thing we need to know?
Right. The sources really zeroed in on two critical things about trajectory that can catch drivers out, particularly with larger vehicles. Things we call the inner and outer movements.
Inner and outer, okay.
Yeah, these are patterns most people don't consciously think about, but you see them constantly if you look.
So let's start with the inner trajectory.
Yeah.
We've all seen a long truck or a bus making a turn, right? What's actually happening there?
Well, when they turn a corner, the back wheels don't follow the same path as the front wheels. They actually cut inside the turn, tracing a much tighter circle.
Right, they cut the corner.
Exactly. It's like the body of the vehicle is sort of squeezing into the inside of the turn.
Okay.
And a key thing from the research is, yeah, this happens with any car, even yours, but it gets way, way more obvious the longer the vehicle is.
Makes sense.
So this means you need to anticipate that tighter turn radius at the back. It's why you see truckers sometimes swing wide before the turn.
Yeah, they drift out first.
Uh-huh. They're making room for those rear wheels to cut in without hitting the curb or worse.
Hmm.
So giving them that wide berth, it's not just polite, it's actually essential safety. You need that space.
Okay, inner trajectory, check. Then what about the outer trajectory? You mentioned that too.
Right, the other side of the coin. This is mainly about vehicles with a long overhang.
Overhang.
Yeah, that's the bit of the vehicle that sticks out behind the rear wheels. Think like a removal van or a truck carrying long pipes or lumber that extends past the back axle.
Gotcha.
So when that kind of vehicle turns, the very tail end of it or its load actually swings outwards. It makes a wider arc than even the rear tires do.
Oh, wow. Okay. I can picture that. I remember driving a moving van once, years ago, making a tight turn out of a driveway.
Uh-oh.
But I completely forgot about that tail swing. Nearly clipped a neighbor's fence post. I kind of brought this whole outer trajectory thing home pretty quickly.
Huh. Yeah, it's a really common thing to overlook. And the safety issue is clear, right? That wide swing at the very back can easily smack into things, signs, parked cars,
Or people.
or people, exactly. Pedestrians or cyclists who might just assume the whole truck body follows the wheels. It doesn't. So recognizing these patterns before you decide where to position your car near them, well, that's just critical.
So putting it together, understanding both the inner cut and the outer swing of other vehicles helps you, avoid their blind spots, actually predict where they're going to be, not just where they are now,
Precisely.
and to generally make safer choices second by second in traffic. It's like seeing the invisible moves.
Well put.
Okay, so that's reading others. But what about our own car?
Right.
The path it takes is obviously affected by lots of things too. Let's break those down. Maybe you can shed light on some of the less obvious factors.
Absolutely. There's definitely more going on under the hood, so to speak, than just turning the wheel.
Right. let's start with velocity, speed.
Mhm.
We all kind of know faster is harder to control, but what's the science bit?
Well, it's not just a feeling. The sources show how even small increases in speed drastically cut down your reaction time, and importantly, the grip your tires have.
Ah, the grip.
Yeah. And at higher speeds, something called your car's yaw rate. Basically, how fast it rotates side to side becomes much more sensitive.
Okay.
So even tiny steering movements can make the car change direction much more sharply than you expect. It demands really fine, almost instinctive adjustments to stay on your intended line.
Okay. And vehicle weight. It's not just about taking longer to stop, is it?
No, not at all. Heavier vehicles obviously have more momentum, more kinetic energy,
Right.
which means they have more inertia. They resist changing direction much more strongly. So making a sudden swerve or correcting a slide becomes a much bigger challenge to its intended path. Like you said, it takes longer to stop, but it also takes more effort and more distance to turn.
Like trying to steer a boat versus a go-kart.
Exactly. Good analogy.
And road conditions. We know ice is bad, but what else?
Well, the surface type itself matters, smooth asphalt versus rough concrete. But it's often the subtle stuff, like patchy wet spots, a bit of gravel on a corner, even uneven pavement.
Potholes.
Potholes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All these things can suddenly change the traction under one or more tires, introducing forces that try to push your car off the line you intended. Your tires are in this constant little battle for grip.
Right. And the car itself, steering and suspension,
Yeah.
if those aren't right, your trajectory is going to be off.
Oh, absolutely. They're your direct link to the road. If your alignment's out or your shocks are worn or, a ball joint is loose,
Yeah.
the car just won't respond predictably. It won't be able to hold that intended line accurately. It makes handling feel vague or worse, unstable, like trying to draw neatly with a shaky hand.
And that leaves the big one, driver behavior.
Yeah.
Seems like this ties everything together, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
You can have the best car, perfect roads, but if the driver isn't doing their part,
Mm-hmm.
well, things like being distracted, obviously, or impaired, but also just being overly aggressive, tailgating, sudden braking or steering. These are huge factors in losing control and deviating from a safe path.
So the good news is...
The good news is, this is the factor you have the most direct control over, right? By driving at sensible speeds for the conditions, really paying attention, keeping your vehicle maintained, using those defensive driving skills, you are the one ultimately managing that trajectory, keeping it safe, avoiding collisions.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening? Understanding vehicle trajectory, it's not just for engineers or accident investigators. It's like a practical skill.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you a shortcut to being more aware and definitely safer out there.
Mm.
It's about going beyond just thinking, where are my wheels pointed? To really anticipating how the whole vehicle, yours and others, is going to move and react.
Yeah, that knowledge really is power on the road, especially for predicting what might happen next and avoiding trouble before it starts. Getting these ideas gives you a real edge, makes you feel more prepared and confident behind the wheel.
Definitely. So here's a final thought for you to ponder. We talked quite a bit about those really obvious inner and outer movements of big trucks, the pronounced stuff.
Right.
But what about your own car? Your everyday runabout? What tiny, subtle trajectory shifts might it be making during a simple turn, or even just changing lanes that maybe you've never fully noticed before? Keep an eye out next time you drive. You might just surprise yourself with what you observe.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.